satisfaction. Once we become aware of our behaviors, if we want to shift, it's important to implement the awareness toward change. We're going to talk about plan of action to make that our reality. So that's what today looks like. And then we'll open up for any questions you might have. So Prepare ENRICH says that partner styles and habits, this category measures a person's satisfaction with their own characteristics as well as the habits of their partner. So you're looking at self and you're looking at your partner. And so you're looking at your personal relationship style and habits as that is exhibited in your behavior. That's what we're talking about today. What am I doing? What does my partner do? And how does this impact our relationship? How do these behaviors impact our relationship? So how do you define style as it relates to our behavior? A style, we're looking at partner styles and habits. A style simply is something that you do. It's a manner, the way that you do something. So think about your partner or think about the person that you're in relationship with and ask yourself, what do they do? Just generally, what is something that your partner does? And you assess that. Look at your partner's style, look at your style, and then you think, how does that impact our relationship? Why might we look at our partner style? Why might we look at our style? And then what happens when we do that? When we look at our own styles or our partner style, is there a risk associated with looking at that? Yes. And that's where I'm asking you to take a risk, to just take a risk at looking at your personal style and at your partner style. And remember, we said style means a manner of doing something. It's simply how you do what you do. We also want to take a look at habits, and let's define habits. A habit is a settled or a regular tendency or a practice, especially one that's hard to give up. So a habit is a settled or regular tendency or one practice that is hard to give up. So it's something that you do continually over and over again. It's simply what you do. And it's hard to break. That's what a habit is. And so we're looking at habits, we're looking at styles, we're asking you to assess them, to look at these things in your lives and check them out. Look at self, look at your partner, assess styles and habits. Take a risk of making that assessment. And then the question is, why might that be risky? Why might it be risky to look at your style, to look at your habits, and to assess them? Think about that. So the Prepare ENRICH questions go like this, and I'm going to jump back to that slide. Before I show you the questions, here's what I'd like you to do. I want you to think through the questions as they appear on the screen, and I'll read them to you verbatim so you have a sense for what they are. And as I ask these questions, as I present these questions, I want you to think whether or not the answers to these questions for you are true or false. Are these answers to these questions for you true or false? And these questions are taken directly from the Prepare ENRICH assessment. So here's the first statement. I am sometimes upset or embarrassed by my partner's behavior. I already see some responses. I love it. I am sometimes upset or embarrassed by my partner's behavior. Is this true or false for you? And remember, we're using the relationships generally, although this is specific to marriage. Think about any relationships that you have. Are you sometimes upset or embarrassed by this person's behavior? Here's the next inquiry, true or false. I wish my partner were more reliable and follow through on more things. I wish my partner were more reliable and follow through on more things. Love what it's triggering for folks. It's fabulous. Here's another. Sometimes my partner is too stubborn, just too stubborn. Oh my word, this partner of mine, goodness. The next, I am sometimes concerned that my partner appears to be unhappy or withdrawn. I'm really concerned about that, unhappy or withdrawn. Here's the next. Sometimes I am concerned about my partner's temper. Whew, that temper, mercy. Is that true or false for you? Here's the final set of questions specific to partner styles and habits on the Prepare Enrich assessment. I wish my partner was less critical or negative about some topics. I wish my partner was just not as critical or negative. That would be lovely. Next, sometimes my partner seems to be too controlling. Cannot take it. I am over this controlling behavior. Sometimes I have difficulty dealing with my partner's moodiness. I'm just tired of it. Moody, 1 minute up, the next minute down, 1 minute sad, the next minute happy. I sometimes have difficulty dealing with that. Next, my partner has some personal habits that bother me. Personal things. Remember, we're talking about styles and habits, and my partner's habits sometimes bother me. And the final question on the assessment says, I am unhappy with some of my partner's personality characteristics or personal habits. I'm just not pleased. And sometimes I ask myself, my word, is this the person I'm in a relationship with? Mercy. I am unhappy with some of my partner's characteristics, personality characteristics, and some of their personal habits. So if you looked at these questions and heard me read them, and some of your responses were, oh yes, mercy, Jesus, save me, Lord, you're in the right place. You're absolutely in the right place. This is a place for you to take a look at some of the things that might be habits or styles, yours personally and your partner's, to assess and to do something about. Let's take a look at some questions for consideration. Ask yourself, is your relationship with your partner as satisfying as you want it to be? When you think about where you are or whatever relationship you're considering right now, is your relationship with that person as satisfying as you want it to be? If it is, why? What makes this relationship satisfying for you? If it's not, what's contributing to that? Could the answer to that question, the fact that your relationship is not as satisfying as you want it to be, because of some of the styles and habits that either you are exhibiting or that you're experiencing with your partner? Are your styles or your habits negatively impacting the level of satisfaction in your relationship with your partner? How? When? Why? And the million-dollar question for the evening is, what do you want to do about it? What do you want to do about the state of your satisfaction level in your relationship? Or maybe you're comfortable and you do not want to do anything about it. It's often the case that in relationships, when things are challenging, we make a decision. We either decide that we're going to sit with how things are, the status quo. We don't want to rock the boat, so we just leave things as they are. We could feel dissatisfied And we know that there are things that need to be worked on or things that can be changed to improve the status of our relationship. And we decide, I don't have what it takes. I don't want to put the work into it because it does take work. That's sometimes the reality. Other times, we look at the relationship and the level of satisfaction and we say, you know what? If I do some things differently, I know we can have a more satisfying experience. So I am going to do what it takes to make this my reality. That's a part of what we're looking at today. What are you willing to do to improve and or increase the level of satisfaction in your relationship? Let's look at that for a little bit. And I'm going to ask you to get a little personal. So I want you to look at yours, because before we can look at someone else, we need to look at ourselves. It's always easy to point fingers, right? You need to do this. You got to stop doing that. I'm so tired of you doing that. That's really easy. What's difficult is here. What are my personal styles and habits? What are they that might be impacting my relationship? So I want you to take a moment right now and think about yours. 3 positive personal styles or habits that you have in this relationship. What are they? What are 3 personal positive styles and habits that you have in your relationship? And while you think about this, I have a wonderful husband who is so willing to participate with me on my seminars. And I asked him these questions. His name is Linji. I'm so grateful for him. And I said, Linj, I'd like you to answer these questions for me because I'm going to be presenting this to our friends in Bermuda. He's like, oh, Bermuda, I'm so excited. But you want me to tell them my stuff? I said, Are you willing? And he said, yes. And I'm so grateful. So I'm going to share them with you. So Linji says his 3, so remember, you're thinking about yours. Don't let me distract you. Think about your stuff. So before I share Linji's, let me give you 1 minute. I'm going to time you. Take your minute to write about your 3 positive personal styles or habits in your relationship. 1 minute. When I asked Linji this question about himself, so grateful that he was willing to participate. He said he easily forgives. I absolutely agreed with that. I learned about forgiveness from Linji. It's wonderful. He also says that he always sees the best in others and circumstances. He's an optimistic person. Totally agree. And it's interesting. So this last one, he put in both categories, both plus and the minus. So we'll talk about that, the positive and negative. So this one said he's a people pleaser. He likes pleasing people. And he says, well, that's a good thing. We'll talk about how it may not be a good thing also. So hopefully you've written you have in mind your 3 personal, positive personal styles and habits. Now I'd like you to think about 3 negative personal styles and habits. So you're looking at yourself. What are 3 of your personal negative styles and habits? I'll give you 1 more minute to think that through. Your personal negative styles and habits. What are they? Okay. So Linji, when I asked him this question, already gave you a hint about one of the things on this side of the list for him. He talked about being a people pleaser, and he says sometimes that's a negative for him because he might end up neglecting himself in order to please others. So we know that's not beneficial. When he's not neglecting himself, that's a positive thing, that he's pleasing folks. But when he is, that's not beneficial. He also says one of his negative traits is that he's forgetful. Yep, I would agree with that. He forgets things from time to time. And then sometimes he overshares. So an example he used was, if he's walking to the mailbox and it happens to be that the mail woman's coming by, instead of just saying, hey, thanks for the mail, he'll say, hey, what's going on? And there's no need to share all those details with the mail woman, but sometimes he does that. So those are the things that Lindsay shared. So now that you have communicated these things about yourself, with yourself, I want you to, if you're with someone in the seminar, if you'd share what you wrote or what you have connected with, your 3 positive and your 3 negative personal styles or habits, share it with the person that you've connected with, please. I'll give you 1 moment to do that. So some of the things that you've shared with the person that you connected with may have been a surprise. Maybe your partner or the person with whom you're connected did not realize that you thought these things of yourself. And some of it might be just confirmation. I knew these things about you. Oh, yes. So now that you have looked at yourself, I want you to now look at your partner. Think about your partner's styles and habits. And we're going to do the same thing. So you just did yourself. Now I want you to think about your partner. What's your partner's positive personal styles or habits? And I'm sure you have wonderful things to say about your partner. So take a moment to either lock that in or write that down. What are 3 positive personal styles or habits of your partner? And then I'll share with you what Lindsay said about me. So Lindsay said, the 3 positive personal styles or habits that I have are my intelligence, that I always want what's best for him. I'm in his corner, and that I'm patient. I am very pleasantly surprised that he thinks I'm patient. Praise Jesus for that. Amen. Hallelujah. So now that you've looked at the positive personal habits of yourself, I'd like you to think about negative. 3 negative personal styles or habits of your partner. What are things that you see that you're like, no, honey, no way. He needs to do some work in here. What are 3 negative personal styles or habits of your partner or the person with whom you are in relationship that you're thinking about as you are here with us today? So Lindsay shared that the 3 negative personal styles and habits that I have are that I hold others to the same high standards I set for myself, others meaning him, of course. He says, I'm very individuated. He wants me to be less individuated in this marriage, and that sometimes my risk-taking can be challenging. And one example I'll share about my risk-taking, we were in Germany together, and we were pulled over by cops because we crossed the border. And actually, we were profiled. And I hadn't been profiled in the States, but we were profiled in Germany. 2 Black people driving from the Czech Republic back to Germany. And when the German police pulled us over, he asked for our passports. And before I handed my passport over, Lindsay was very ready to simply hand the passport over. I said, why? Why are you asking us for our passport? Oh boy, Lindsay said, no, we don't do that. I'm a Black man. We don't do that. I'm a risk taker. I'd say I'm an advocate, but he says my behavior is more along the risk-taking path, and that's not something he thinks is positive. So now that you have written down your partner's styles and habits, or you've locked them into your mind, please share. I'll give you 1 minute to share what you have observed and jotted down with your partner. Take a minute, please. So I'm hopeful that this is insightful for you and not too painful, just insightful and a blessing to gain insight into wonderful positive traits that you have, as well as some things that you might want to grow in areas that you want to grow and improve in. You know that our partners typically know us best. You know, we're good at masking when we leave our homes. We put on this lovely mask, this Happy Sabbath mask. You know, that Happy Sabbath mask, it could be arguing in the car, but as soon as you step into the forum, hi, Happy Sabbath, everything is wonderful. We do that really well. But the persons with whom we live typically know us best. And they give us a wonderful opportunity to have a mirror so we can see some things that we often don't see or choose not to see, because you know, it's always easier to look at the things that are positive than the things that are not. And so I'm hopeful that this was beneficial for you. And with the new awareness for some, or the confirmation for others, you will choose to possibly do some things differently as we look at styles and habits. That's the hope. And what we'll talk about as we navigate our way forward through this presentation is what you can do to make that your reality. Now that you have this awareness about yourself and about your partner, what do you want to do to continue to enhance these awarenesses in yourself about your styles and habits? Counseling is a wonderful way to continue to either gain additional insight or to work through some of these things. You can, with your partner or with self, goal set. Now that I see these things about myself, what do I want to do differently? And be intentional about setting goals in these areas. Do a checkup or a check-in with your partner, or attending seminars like these is another wonderful way to enhance your awareness of these styles and habits. Be objective and subjective. And that's what we did just now when we looked at ourselves and then we asked our partners to share with us the things that they're aware of. when we see these things, when we experience these things in our relationships, sometimes we want to do this. We talked about this versus this first. It's important to remember that you and your partner, the person with whom you've connected, your teammates for life. That's what you pledged. So this is your life partner, and be their biggest team builder or cheerleader. Instead of looking at your partner as the problem, realize that the problem is the problem. And you and your partner on the same team can attack the problem versus attacking each other as you're navigating the challenges you might experience with their styles and habits. It's inevitable. We're human, we're different. Sometimes we'll rub each other the wrong way. Fine, that's what it is. It's not your partner that is the issue, it's the rub. What is the rub and how can we work through the rub? If we don't have awareness about our styles or habits, what will happen? If we lack awareness about our partner's styles or habits, what will happen? What do you think will happen if you just live your life like this, pretending that you don't see anything, either about yourself or your partner? What I have seen happens is that things deteriorate. Typically, couples come to me when they get to that point of deterioration because there's no assessing going on, there's no inquiry, there's no checking in. And all of a sudden, and I put that in air quotes because it isn't all of a sudden, it's been happening consistently along the way and nothing has been done about it. And so all of a sudden they realize things have deteriorated, and then there's a desire for support to navigate that. And so the encouragement is, I use this terminology quite often. Preventative maintenance is what I call it. Preventative maintenance. Do things along the way to keep things up. You know, there's a reason that we prep for Sabbath every week. If you leave things for months without prepping, there's a whole lot of work to do. But instead, if you do systematically check in, then you will work at making sure things are where they need to be from time to time, systematically, step by step, versus waiting until it's a mountain to start working through and making adjustments that are needed. So we talk about the importance of being aware. Other things that we can do is having a desire to do differently. How do I want to change these things that I'm now aware of? Am I willing to make the change? Am I willing to take the risk to change? Because if I choose to change, that means I need to do some things differently. That means I might be asked to be accountable to the things that I'm going to do differently. And that takes courage. And that's risky. And sometimes I want to be courageous, and other times not so much. Sometimes I just want to sit and leave me alone. Yes, I left the fridge door open again. I do that sometimes. Just let me be. Just let me be. Or I apologize. I realize I have done this repeatedly in the past, and this is something I will intentionally work on doing differently. I appreciate your patience. We decide how we choose to make these shifts and what these awareness will do for us. Another way that we can become aware of what these things are, maybe find out what the root of our causes are. There's a quote that I love. It says, what is his name? I don't remember the author at this time, but he says, by their fruits you shall know them, and by their roots you will understand and not judge them. So if we look at the roots of some of the reasons why our styles and our habits are the way they are, that might help us to become a bit more empathetic with the people with whom we're in relationship. By our fruits we shall know them, by their roots we shall understand and not judge them. And so it may be the case that some of the stuff that are a part of what contributes to our styles and habits have to do with our family of origin. We are the way that we are. We do the things we do because of the things in our lives from our family of origin. There we go. It could be that if we look at our family tree or we look at our genogram, we look at how the links are connected in our family. That has something to do with why we're doing the things we're doing. And awareness is the first step toward making those changes. And so if you have family that's coming to town, whether it's during the holidays or at a reunion, or you have the privileged opportunity to have a connection with your grandparents or great grandparents, to have conversations with them about, hey, I noticed that I keep doing this and it's really impacting my relationship. I wonder where it's coming from. Talk with them about what have you done and what did grandma do and what did grandpa do, and look at patterns. Because if the first step toward change is awareness, having these awarenesses about the cycles will help you to break cycles, which will then positively impact the relationships that you're in. And that's risky too, because sometimes folks just don't want to talk about that stuff. Don't come and ask me about this and that and who did that and what. That's a risk taker too. I typically encourage people, if you want a person to be more forthcoming with information, always come from a sense of you. I am so interested in learning more about myself and seeing where these things come from. This is really important to me as I continue to grow. I want to be a better husband. I want to be a better wife. I want to be a better mother. I want to be a better father. I want to be a better person. And a way to do that is for me to gain some awareness about some things that might have been a part of just my upbringing. I wonder if you'd be so kind, I would love it if you would share some of these things with me. Who would not want to bless you with some information if you come to them from that perspective? And so if you keep it in the I and you share from a place of your desires, it's usually better received than, and I keep doing this and I know my mother did it. And my father did it too. And I see grandma did the same thing. Last week, I was by the house and she did that. That probably will not be as well received as the first way when you come from a place of I'm desirous of becoming better and doing better. So that's one of the ways that you might gain awareness and growth as a result of that, gaining insight into your styles and habits, and then deciding, okay, I can do things to change. Some of the ways that you can do that is by, one of the things we did here today, introspecting. When I asked you to look at your styles and habits first, look at self. Do some reading, journaling. That's something I often encourage folks to do. Another quote I like, it says, words disentangle themselves through your fingertips. If something's come up for you today, as you were looking at yourself for your positives and negatives, or something came up as you looked at your partner's positives and negatives from their styles and habits, start just processing that for yourself and see how you can grow as a result of that. Counseling, whether it's individual or group, being vulnerable. I am often saddened by the reality that in relationships, we choose not to be vulnerable. We don't want to take risks because we're afraid of being found out, afraid of what that might mean in our relationships if we are truly honest with our partners. And so I encourage you to take that risk in relationships of vulnerability, because that's where growth occurs. Maybe you have a group of folks that you connect with and you share with on a regular basis. They can hold you accountable. I have a group of ladies. We have been meeting. We all went to Andrews together. And since graduation, we have been meeting. First, we started meeting weekly, and then we went to every other week. And now we meet once a month on a Sunday. This has been, if I tell you how many years, and you'll know when I graduated, I'm not going to tell you how many years. It's been a lot of years that we meet every month and hold each other accountable Sunday mornings at 8:30 a.m. And we really just use an opportunity to catch up. What's going on in your life? We've seen each other go through, we were all single at Andrews. We've gone through marriages and children and different jobs and different churches and different careers. It's been amazing, and they hold me accountable. I share that to say, so our last meeting was in June, and they were I was getting ready to go on break for school, and I was excited. I said, oh, I'm so ready to be on break. Hallelujah. I need a break. These students, oh my word. That was woe with me moment in my accountability group. And I said, next academic year, I'm going to do some things differently. I am not going to teach as many classes because there's no need for me to teach as many classes. And they said, okay, whatever. You said that before, Navishi. I said, check, watch me. And so right the week after, the chair of our department sent an availability survey out. Which classes are you willing to teach? How many classes are you willing to teach? And because I had conversations with my accountability group about, I'm going to do differently, I'm not going to teach as many classes. While I was completing the survey, that thought was very present for me. And I said, okay, they're telling me that I'm going to do it again. I'm going to surprise them this time. And so I did. I said, I'm teaching this class and this class only in this term. I will teach this class and this class only in this term. And when I completed it, I said, look at me, hallelujah. Yes, Lord, thank you for giving me the wisdom, the insight, and the accountability of my partners. As soon as I pressed complete on the survey, I texted our group chat. I said, I want to thank you for holding me accountable. I want you to know what I just did. And of course, they're like, oh, go to me. She was like, hallelujah, thank you. Not only was the accountability good for me to do differently, but it was also good for them to see that although this may have been a behavior, a style, a habit that I had participated in before, their support and my vulnerability in our relationship supported my desire to change. And that was really beneficial. So I encourage, if you don't have a group, a set of people with whom you can rely on for support or will hold you accountable, I encourage you to make that your reality. It's so beneficial. It's been really beneficial for all of us. Ongoing growth lifestyle is something too that you can engage in. Just desire. Have someone hold you accountable. If it's not a group of people, maybe it's that one person in your life that you choose to risk with and make that so. So now it's your turn. Who is willing to share, to unmute themselves? Ooh, I'm asking you to do it. Yes, I am. Who is willing to unmute yourself and share? We just went through this discussion. Linji was kind enough to share stuff about me and himself. Who is willing on the other side of the pond to share about what you discussed with your partner or things that you discovered about yourself as we navigated the information in today's presentation? Who's going to be courageous and take that risk? Ooh, let's see. Feel free to unmute yourself if it's you. Who's willing to share what they discovered as they looked at their own personal styles and habits or their partner's styles and habits? I'm good at voluntelling folks. You know, we volunteer or sometimes we get voluntold. But because this is our first time together after a while, what I'll do is not. And instead, I will prepare you for the next time we're together. So you know that this is the style of Navishi. I'm not just going to sit here and talk to you. I want you to share with me too. So maybe next time, now that you know, you'll be ready to take a risk and share in this format. for our upcoming time together. So what we discussed today, unless someone wants me to wait one moment because you have navigated the courage. You've navigated the courage to unmute yourself and share with us. Is it you? Or instead of all three, maybe one of each? No pressure. Okay. So today we looked at styles, what it is. We looked at habits, what it is. We talked about what it looks like in our relationships, specifically marriage, and how our styles and habits might affect our relationships and our partners. Talked about some tools you can use, and we didn't get to your turn, but we will in a future presentation because then you'll be courageous enough to share. I'm going to turn it over to you to ask any questions you might have. Feel free to unmute yourself. Anything that came up for you as we talked about partner styles and habits today, I would love to engage in conversation with you. Please feel free to unmute yourself.
Yes, I would like to ask a question.
Hi, good afternoon. It's been.
Go ahead.
Hi, I was just looking at that word genogram in one of the slides that you had.
Yes.
I was looking to see what elaborate a little on that.
Sure. Waverly, is that how I pronounce your name? Yes. Well, thank you for asking that question. So genogram.
Yes,
So
yes.
genogram is very similar to a family tree, but it's very different also. So you know when we have a family tree, we kind of write, here's grandma, and grandma has these siblings, and here's grandpa, and here are his siblings, and then they had these children, and here are their children's children. That's a family tree. A genogram takes the family tree and it expounds on it. It looks at not just who is a part of the family and when they were born or when they died, but they look at patterns in each person. Were there any illnesses that each person had? What careers did they engage in? Are there any habits that were formed in this family experience? When I ask students to do genograms, they look at a history of abuse, whether it's physical, emotional, sexual, substance abuse, and they see patterns throughout generations. That's what a genogram does. It gives you an opportunity to see. It looks at characteristics too. This is someone that was a hard worker, attained many degrees. This person was in this field of work and they see that, oh, wow, we had teachers from my great-grandma, my grandma's generation, my parents' generation, and my generation of teachers. That's what a genogram does. It looks beyond the family tree and it looks at connections of characteristics throughout the family generations. I hope that answered your question. Ms. Miners, if it did, would you give me a thumbs up, please? If your question.
Yes, thank you. Very good. Thank you.
Fantastic. You're welcome. I heard someone else unmute themselves and ask a question.
Okay, so I have a question. I'm a single mom, but I'd like to have a better relationship with my son and how to get through conversations with him, because I know when we get in conversations, it's usually he's always outside of the box and and I'm trying to stay inside the box. And I was just wondering, I know this is about a marriage thing, but if our son, children are always in your life. So it's like a marriage. So how can a person have a better relationship with their children?
That's a great question. Is that Gwendolyn that's speaking?
Yeah, if you understand what I'm saying.
I do, absolutely. And I appreciate your question. Thanks for asking.
It's a never-ending battle.
Yeah, relationship. Absolutely. Relationships with children can be challenging. And one of the things, so you said that sometimes when your son is talking, he wants to stay in the box and you might want to go out of the box in conversation.
No, he goes outside the box. I stay in the box.
Okay, so you're more comfortable staying in and he wants to go all the way out. And you're like, no,
Yeah.
come on back in here. This is more comfortable for me right here.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, fantastic. I think that is a wonderful way to start a conversation. You can say just that. So when we are talking, it seems that you want to have conversations about things that are out here. And I am more comfortable having conversations about things that are here. So I wonder, this is you talking to your son, if maybe when we talk, we could both try to do something different. Maybe you can meet me halfway by having conversations about things here. And I can meet you halfway by having conversations about things here. Maybe just take one risk. Let's just take one topic. You meet me here in my box, and I will meet you here in your box. And we can start there to build our relationship. Because if we're going to grow, we have to take risks. If we want to do different, if we want to have different, we do different. And so we can't always expect people to join us where we are comfortable. Sometimes we need to join them where they're comfortable. And so that might be a place to start in this conversation with your son.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Is there another question?
Another question. There is another question I was thinking of relating to marriages. I know sometimes in marriages, when two people are stuck together in a way where things are not going too well, and neither partner knows how to start the conversation on how they can make it better. And so therefore, because of not wanting to hurt each other's feelings, or not knowing how to bring up the subject, because we know how they're going to feel and we know what they're going to say. So things get unresolved. But the Bible says, don't let the wrath go, the sun, don't let the sun go down on your wrath. So therefore, a lot of marriages today are just not resolving their problems and their differences because they don't want to hurt each other's feelings, or they already have it in their mind. They know what the other person's going to say. So can you reflect a little bit on that?
I love that question. You've made some really, really valid points, that a lot of things are left unsaid and it builds up. Those are some of the things we talked about in our time today. And the risk of that is that it will erode. It will break down the marital health and the marital experience, the marital satisfaction. One of the things I heard you say when you shared also is that the risk isn't taken to have the conversation because they know what the person is going to say. I already know what you're going to say, so I'm not even going to go there with you. And I think that sometimes that's not necessarily true. We may think we know what our partner will say based on our previous experiences with them or how we have interacted with them in the past. However, our partners may surprise us, and we will not know if we'll be surprised if we do not give them an opportunity to have the conversation. And so one of the things I encourage couples to do is maybe to start with that. We've had many conversations in the past, and the end result has been something that I wouldn't prefer. And I am concerned that this will be another one of those experiences. And I don't want that, because what I would want is for us to, whatever it is that you desire, and you lay it out there. I want us to grow. I want us to be more loving, whatever it is that you desire, because you're sharing with them that you're desirous of a different experience with them. And then you ask them, what might it take for us to have a different experience together? I am willing to, whatever it is that you're willing to do. What might it take for us to have a shift in our experience together? And so you're laying it out that you have a desire for more and different, and you're asking your partner to join you on that journey.
Right. Okay. There's also another thing that goes on in marriages too, where the husband wants to hang out with his boys, and the wife wants to hang out with her girls, and it seems to be like